Hey guys, what is going on, RedMaster, and welcome back to episode of Casting Conflicts for you. Today we've got a great match lined up, so without much ado, let's go ahead and jump right in to match number one.
All right, Visman, we got Asteroiy here versus RedMaster. As we saw right here before the game, before we had a little restart, ladies and gentlemen, we saw that it was going to be what appeared to be a school deck here with Crusaders Pirates versus RedMaster's, what right now Vesven and I are assuming is his Warlock Zoo. Vesven, I'm seeing Drain Life in this deck. That doesn't look like Warlock Zoo to me.
No, that's not a specific card that I remember Red running in the Warlock Zoo, but I actually do like seeing that card versus a school deck.
Absolutely, the 2 damage can just take out any school. And if Asteroiy can't get that school running, it can be extremely difficult for him to get any momentum against a deck which might be running, say, buffs, which that neither Crusaders nor Pirates have. That's going to be extremely a big uphill battle when something like White Knight comes out and you're starting to get buff after buff after buff thrown on it. We're already seeing 2 blessings. What are you thinking of that, Vestman?
Right. Well, actually, I think that the deck that RedMaster is running is looking very similar to a deck that I've been running that is Warlock Druid, and it focuses on drain life and buffs and the lifesteal units, and I think that might be something more along the lines of what RedMaster is running here.
I'm also seeing an Arcanon in there.
Now, what I would like to see is... That's not something that I run. What I would like to see here is a Centaur to take out the Armory, and I would like to see a Blessing of Treants on the White Knight.
And we're going to see it here, Vestman. We're going to see the big boy come in.
And that's exactly what he goes for. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Do you think Asteroiy might be running...
right now, what Red...
I think that Mercenary's Execution is the only threat here to that White Knight.
Absolutely, and that's what that Red is setting up for, is he's establishing his board presence and saying, hey, I've got this 4/8 lifesteal guy, beat me, you know? And there are cards that can beat it, but he is kind of establishing a precedent and saying that he's challenging you, and we're going to see the White Knight grow even more right here.
It's going to be extremely difficult to deal with, especially when something like Arcanon comes out and Mercenary's Execution, Passivism, those get out of jail free cards that School has the potential to run. As soon as those are gone, then and can't be played immediately onto that night, do you think there could be any way back after this Arcanon is played?
Well, perhaps. What I would like to go back on is, do you agree with attacking the Paladin on that play? Or, in your opinion, would it have been better for the White Knight to hit the castle?
White Knight didn't have that option because of Blessing of the Trance.
It's going to turn out not to matter.
Oh, I see what you're saying about the positioning.
That's right. It only has 2 movement.
Yeah, I'm not quite confident in that Drain Life play, because what if something like, for example, Frog Prince came out and healed it back up? That Drain Life play would not have been viable at all. I think Red was doing it like that so that way Asteroiy would have a false sense of security. Unless Asteroiy gets something like Mercenary's Execution, I see no way out for him here, Vess.
There's no way out of this without Mercenary Execution, and it's obvious he doesn't have it. And even if Red does not finish the game on this play, it just feels like a foregone conclusion. I think we're going to see Blessing of the Treants come out to put him down to 1 castle health.
No blessing coming out, actually.
Okay, he opts for the Blue Firebolt instead. Yeah, I think that I would have. I think that I would have actually used the Blessing of the Treants and then used the Faithful Drake to push ahead. But we're at a point right now where there aren't a lot of wrong decisions for RedMaster. He's just got the game, and
The,
there it is.
yeah, there are just a whole lot of more less right decisions. So,
Exactly. Yeah.
wrapping that all on up, do you have any final thoughts on that match? This?
I think that Redmaster just got off to such a strong start and got his buffs out soon, and I'm kind of familiar with playing that deck. And I'm not sure if it was a school deck um, for the Crusader Pirates, but he just was never able to hit his stride, and all those buffs with the lifesteal units, they can be very powerful very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's time we head back to our players then. Alrighty, boys. Red, how you feeling after that one?
Feeling pretty good,
Oh,
not
wait,
gonna
wait.
lie.
Red, let me cut real quick.
All right.
And we're back with the players. Red, how you feeling after that match?
Pretty good. I mean, the deck pretty much hit all of its high points, and that's kind of why I think I had such the dominant performance that I did. I was kind of waiting for a couple of answers from him, but I never saw those, so pretty relieved that that didn't actually happen.
Do you think there might have been a chance that you hit only low points there then? If you that's your high points?
Well, see, the one moment that I was waiting for that could have completely changed the game around is the loss of White Knight. As you probably saw by my hand, I really didn't have any sort of recovery if I lost the White Knight. I mean, I had something like Arcanon, which sure, that could have done something, but, with the spells I had in hand, probably not going to be the best choice for me. Um, the Rat King as well. Again, it's an okay card in that scenario, but ultimately would not have been the win condition. So I felt like if he did take out White Knight, it would be a uphill battle for me to, win the matchup. But then again, I noticed he wasn't really throwing a whole lot out at me either, so I was kind of curious what maybe was on his end at that point.
Additionally, I saw that Arcanon sitting in your hand, which could have blocked something like a Mercenary's Execution or a Pacifism, which could have gotten Asteroid out of that sticky situation very, very quickly. Did
Right.
you think about that at all and consider playing Arcanon, or was he more of there for a backup if White Knight died?
No, he's definitely in there for hard removal counter, if that kind of makes sense, or just those general spell counters. Because I noticed with decks like Lifesteal, they're very prone to sort of build up one particular unit. And if that unit goes down, the decks tend to have a hard time following up with an answer, because normally, of course, they use some of their bigger spells on that first target. So Archie's in here just primarily to kind of throw off those spells, sort of to, uh, you know, just maybe protect my guys a little bit further, add that extra layer of protection to kind of keep my big unit, my big win condition alive.
Yeah. Asteroid, do you run those hard counter removals that could have clinched you out there and just didn't hit them?
Yeah, it was just a sad match for me.
Yeah. I saw that you had a real hard time in the beginning. What point do you think that is what, in many ways, lost you the game?
Um, Probably the the first drain life. Once once the White Knight has the 4/4 buff, it's a little too much for me to handle without getting Mercenary's Execution.
I saw quite a few knights there. Is this supposed to be a knight archetype deck, or
It's supposed to. It has quite a few knights because they're good for the sort of like rushing your opponent down. Like Paladin into Frog Prince is usually a pretty solid push.
yeah,
And
it's a pretty
so,
nifty combination.
yeah, having the questing knights and headless in as well isn't particularly difficult. for the deck. So it's just nice having Lumi in there, and it puts in work.
Absolutely. I mean, I thought that match was pretty straightforward. Vesevan, you got anything to add to that?
RedMaster, going into the match, we kind of thought we were seeing your Zoo deck. What is different about the deck that you're running in this match versus your Zoo deck?
This one's primarily focused on lifesteal. Naming the deck Good Life kind of is a little bit of a hint to just generally what the deck is based around. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the main differentiation here. I don't run as many beasts in here. I don't really focus on, that aspect of druids as much. This time I'm focusing more on the warlocks, focus more on the lifesteal elements of vampire and white knight, and just creating these big monstrosities that are hard to counter. And of course, throwing in some druid elements like rampage and companions certainly help achieve that goal of just, big lifesteal plus a lot of control to overwhelm the opponent.
Absolutely. And Asteroiy, at first we thought you might be running a school deck, but I'm not so sure about that. Would you like to shed any more light on what maybe is the main theme of the deck that you're running?
Yeah, it's just sort of good stuff really. It's just push well, ramp into some pretty big units and make the most of them.
Yeah, like a mid-range ramp. Okay, great. All right, we'll jump back to you.
Well, thank you, Ves, and let's move. Not gonna answer that dig, but let's move on back to game 2. Start recording. Vesevan, we got game 2 here. What do you think that Asteroiy is gonna bring here?
All right. Well, we saw the druid and the warlock from red, and it looks like that Asteroiy is going to counter with a Viking Crusader. It looks like he's trying to play a little bit more defensively here.
Yeah, I think that cards like Freezing Pillar and Cloak could be hiding in here, and it'd be extremely difficult for Red to consistently stop them with how much draw Asteroiy can generate with Crusaders. Though I am kind of surprised to see a Blacksmith come out for global buffs, which would indicate multiple units, which don't fare too well against lifesteal. It doesn't seem to be quite the most optimal strategy in my mind, but who knows what else Asteroiy is running in this deck. Do you think that he might be running Mystic Journey, Vesa? Oh, I've lost Vesevan. Alrighty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here with you. I'm here with the 2 players. We're going to go on with this. We're seeing Blue Firebolt probably going to hit Armory. We're going to be seeing possibly a turn 6 Dragon's Fire. It does look like this is a favorable position for Red right now. I don't see any situation here where this game is going to be ended anytime soon. But in my mind, this is not the situation that I would want to be in Red shoes. I'd want to be much further along, seeing how his curve is balanced, seeing how there's so much instant damage in it, how much stuff that can be just dropped in a very, very short time span. Additionally, Asteroiy might even be running dragons here. We see the Faithful Drake. We see Draw coming out. I'm very curious to see what kind of archetype this is. Vesa, you're back.
So I've just rejoined after lagging out, and
not much has changed.
What I'm saying, not much has changed. I think this looks like a fairly even board position. But I could see Asteroiy really coming across, as getting a favorable board position here.
I definitely agree with that. Now that he's put down Temple of the Five Gods, which in many ways
Mm-hmm.
acts as that blacksmith or acts as that unit that can't generate lifesteal. We haven't seen any lifesteal actually filter into Red's hand. Do you think that he needs
Right,
that to
and
win the game, or he might have win possibilities without it?
well, at this point, it would be a little bit late for him to start drawing into his lifesteal cards. We've seen the Drain Life, and that has hit the Dark Bender. And I think that that is what he really is trying to focus on right now. He needs to use the Dark Bender, and he's got that Dragon's Fire. He's got some Burn. He's got some Companions. So he needs to take out every single threat he can. Maybe he can draw like a Bestial Rage or something and get that Dark Bender starting to hit face.
Do you think
Let's
he's
see
going to
what he
try to take
does.
out Temple here? Centaur Drain Life or something like that? Or Centaur Blessing?
I think that's what he's going for. Yep. Do you agree with that play?
I absolutely do, because I think the scariest thing
Mm-hmm.
for Red right now on this board is that Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally would have played something like Dragon's Fire this turn and allowed myself to take 3 more
Yeah,
damage
I
just to
think
slow
that
down
might
draw.
have been a little bit. I think that might have been a little bit early to take out the temple, but I also can't can't sit here and say that I think that it was a bad decision. And here we're going to see a second temple.
This does seem to be a very negotiable position, though, for Asteroiy, as Red cannot push him, Asteroiy cannot push Red. I would favor Asteroiy in this position simply because he has that late game healing potential and that late game draw potential that Red is simply missing out on.
Absolutely. I think that Asteroiy is in a slight favorite position right here. I think that the game is very close. Um, but especially with that temple on board, even with the 7/7 Darkbender, I think that there's a way that Asteroiy can come away with this. Let's see what happens.
Do you think that the Dark Bender will ever be activated? Do you think it'll actually ever be able to hit face or to truly trade into another unit here before it might be frozen or possibly even never be able to be
Well,
positioned on the board?
yeah, that's kind of the question right now is, you know, a 7/7 Darkbender seems like a huge threat, but we're going to see Asteroiy here. He's playing, and now we've got the Cloak of Ice. There's just too many options for him to create a positive board position for himself, and especially with the Temple of Five Gods. And that's what we're going to see right here is the Darkbender is going to be taken out for a turn, and Asteroiy is going to get a good chance to actually take that out of the game.
I think that's a very, very powerful Dragon's Fire that we just saw. It will, in many ways, prevent Asteroiy from capitalizing upon all of this initiative he's managed to generate for himself.
Right. And now we saw the Drain Life actually hit the Blacksmith for the buff instead of the Darkbender. I think Red probably wanted the 50-50 chance to go the other way. Um, but I think we're starting to see where Red might have actually he's starting to get an advantage in this game for sure.
Do you think he might run Demonic Rage in here? I think it would be a pretty off-color card for him to actually have, but I don't want to discount it entirely.
I hope not. I don't want to discount it entirely. I don't think that he would run that card because it just doesn't seem to fit, in my opinion, for this type of deck. And Red's just going to go all out here. He's really going to challenge Asteroiy, Only has one position where he can move to deal 9 damage, and I just don't see it happening.
I think the question is going to come down
And it
now
happened.
to if Asteroiy has healing, because if Red has no units, there's no he can clean up that sword, but
Well,
he's not able to
now we
threaten
have to see
effectively.
the blue fire dragon fire. He's got to clear the board. We're in sudden death. I think the game's over.
I think this is the only. I mean, Asteroiy does have two more turns, but unless he has any healing in there, I don't see this game being turned around at all. The only possibility I could see is something like
Right. It's
Yenneroth plus double lightning blade coming out and hitting face, but I don't think that's an option that's
well,
exists.
it's gonna take an arbiter's return, and that's just not something that we're seeing right now.
Do you think RedMaster should play Bestial Rage to clean up the books? It would mean that
Yes,
Asteroiy gets no additional
I think
draw.
that yeah, he should just clear the board as much as he can, sacrifice the amp to the lumberjack even,
I actually dislike that play. I think
and
he
I
should have
think
just
that
let the Lumberjack survive, and Astro would have fewer cards to draw any healing off of. Yeah, and Asteroid knows it's over.
mm,
And it's a 2-0 for Red, Vaseman. The
yeah, and Red came through with that warlike druid deck, and it proved to be decisive for him.
Yep, and I think it's time we head back to the players then. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we just saw that second match closing out the series here between Redmaster and Asteroiy. Asteroiy, you got hit pretty hard there at the end. What are you thinking?
Yeah. Wasn't really working out. Drew a 3 lightning blade in a row in the middle game, which really just hurt me.
Yeah.
Needed more units to hit the board, and I was just getting the lightning blades.
I'm surprised by your deck choice because you seem to be running a lot of global buffs there against a lifesteal deck, which traditionally lifesteal would seem to be a hard counter to global buffs.
Yeah, I just figured I'd bring in some freeze and kill off any white knights before they get big.
Yeah, for sure. What in your mind with that deck? What do you think your winning combination was? What your lethal would be?
Hitting face with the lightning blades.
Yeah, yeah. And Red, we didn't see any lifesteal come out from you until much later in the match. Do you think that really hurt your chances at winning in the beginning, or?
Not as much as you might think. I think that match was a very good demonstration of what happens when the deck isn't able to reach that lifesteal. As you can see, the deck still built around a single target, in this case Darkbender. You saw that Darkbender got really, really strong to the point where I slapped an 11-9 on face very hard towards that later stage. And it was, I was waiting for him to kind of bring out the Arbiter, bring out some kind of heal to reverse that. But again, that's kind of like brilliant demonstration of, hey, this is more of like a lifesteal deck, but here's what it can also do, if you kind of get my meaning there.
So that was the side dish to your meat and potatoes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Do you think that if Asteroiy had managed to go ahead and say heal at the end of the match there, say he pulled something like a Hands of the Saint, do you think that you'd still be in a decent position to win the match with that Darkbender on the board, or?
Maybe not. The thing is, hands, probably I would have been able to do a little bit more. Arbiter, on the other hand, very clear elimination of the Darkbender there. Could have gotten him some time, and again, with my low resources, that's a bit difficult for me to recover from in that instance. So, Arbiter would have been a lot more damaging than something like a hands probably would. Sure, he probably would have been able to get something more done with the hands, But the elimination of Darkbender, that would have been devastating towards the end if I didn't have that.
I'm also curious though that you decided to trade off the lumberjack when Asteroiy was already low on draw, and in many ways I was scared that you would potentially go ahead and put some kind of healing back into his hand.
Right, that was certainly something to consider, but I didn't want any kind of damage coming into my face, especially since I was able to kind of counteract it. And I did want to get that Darkbender on board, so if I left the Lumberjack alone, he mentioned before he had Lightning Blade in his hand, he'd pull all three of them. So for him, that could have been just an easy Lightning Blade slap. I would have lost Darkbender, and Lumberjack still would have been an annoyance on face to deal with.
Absolutely. Vesa, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Red, how do you feel that the deck that you're running would perform against more of a swarm deck?
Swarm is an interesting point for this deck. I think that I do have some strong opposition to Swarm. I mean, Lifesteal obviously is a very big counter to it. Being able to constantly chip away units while also replenishing the health to create this sort of impenetrable wall. And also with things like Dragon's Fire as a big kind of sweeping clean away. But then again, if I'm not able to hit those targets, there easily could be something like a giant swarm coming in and, you know, it being a very difficult thing for me to deal with. I may not be able to do too well with it. But I would ultimately say that I think I'd have a fairly decent matchup to it. I wouldn't, you know, outright lose. It's not an outright hard counter, but I can't really guarantee my win against a swarm per se.
So what would be a hard matchup for the Warlock Druid life game deck, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, I already mentioned in, I think, the last interview, once hard removal, like Execution, comes out, or even if they get lucky with a Murder and hit it on Vampire very early on in the game, that's very devastating. That's something that, you know, is difficult for me to come back from. And with the low amount of draw that's in this deck, I mean, I think the only sources of draw I'm getting off on this deck are Lumberjack and Fear. With such a low draw and my tendency to go through a lot of resources in one turn with the deck to create that big threat. I would say, like, once I lose that sort of target, once I lose that big win con in the game, it might be pretty difficult for me to come back from. So pretty much Pirate hard removal is a pretty strong counter, I would say, to this deck, which can be found in a lot of, you know, decks in general.
All right, that sounds good. Slash, back to you.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Slash, we've had Vestavan on, and this has been Red versus Asteroiy, so hope you all have a great one, and we'll see you in the next.
Alright, folks, with that being said, I hope you did enjoy this edition of Casting Conflicts. Let us know what you thought of the matches, leaving your thoughts down in the comment section below. And, of course, while you're down there, if you haven't already done so already, be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, share with friends, and, of course, subscribe if you are new or haven't done so already. It is the best way that you can support us here on the channel. And, yeah, that's going to do it for me for now. So, until next time, guys, stay gaming.